We turn to the D&M Leasing Hotline to talk to that workhorse who, on her day off, ahead of some fun and gallivanting, she makes a little bit of time for us. That is Kennedi Landry of MLB.com. Kennedy, what's happening?
Hey, Kennedy.
Hey, how are y'all? I'm good. Happy to be here.
We are lovely. We know that we are the only thing stopping you from getting to a little bit of movie time for yourself on and off night. And so with that, I would like to begin this interview by asking you, if you had to take this Ranger season thus far and categorize it into a movie genre, which genre would you pick for this Ranger season thus far?
I think maybe a suspense thriller may be the way to go right now. I think we keep like teetering on the edge of something. And I don't know if that's something is good or bad, but that's really what it feels like with these Texas Rangers right now. There's a lot going on. You kind of, there's a few games under 500 coming off the World Series. And like I said, you don't really know if they're going to fall one way or the other at this point. So I think a suspense thriller is where I go with that. I'm not really a fan of those types of movies. I'm not going to lie to you, but that's what I feel like I'm watching every night.
Kennedy, you have piqued my curiosity. I like to say movie watching is a sport. You cannot be on this show without telling us what you're going to go see.
Inside Out 2, actually. Anybody that follows me on Twitter knows I'm a big movie girly. I love all types of movies, and I think Pixar has done a great job, especially, this century of, churning out really good movies that are also really good for adults. And I think Inside Out 1 was a phenomenal film. It made me cry. I heard this one is also going to make me cry, so I'm really excited to go see this with a nice glass of wine tonight.
I want to hear your reviews, too. Got to hear the reviews when you come back.
Follow me on Letterboxd, guys.
Oh, there you go. So first of all, at Kennedi Landry on Twitter, or at Ken Lange, Kenn Landry on Twitter. I think I got that right eventually. And then from there, I'm sure you'll find the Letterboxd. And of course, you'll also find a lot of great coverage of this Texas Rangers team. I mean, you're in the clubhouse, you're following this team, you're firmly on this beat. What has been the air around this club of late? Because it's been a tough stretch, but yesterday to get a little bit of a breakthrough. Actually, the last couple of games, because you saw some offense come through, and then you see Leody Taveras give the two-run home run. What's kind of just been the general air around this team of late?
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because I do think there's optimism, but there's also a self-awareness of, where they are right now, where they're at in the standings, where the record is at. Andrew Heaney had a very frank post-game press conference last night after he, threw a quality start against who were they just playing last night against the Mets? Oh my God,
it's a blur.
Season.
Yeah, the Mets. The Mets were in town. Yeah.
And he had a very frank press conference. He was basically like, we know where we are. We know we're not playing our best ball, and we just need to string together a couple of wins. It feels like they break out for a few games and they're right back, on a 4 or 5 game losing streak. So they really they know where they are. They know what they need to do. And they just need to get back to doing what they do best. And, it's pretty much the same clubhouse, give or take a few guys that they had last year, a team that, was one of the best in the American League offensively, the team that won the World Series. So they do know what they have in here. It's just a matter of honestly putting it all together all at once. Something that made this team so good last year is that they didn't have guys slumping at the same time. I think you see the exact opposite right now, where so many guys up and down this lineup, Adolis Garcia, Leody Taveras, Nathaniel Lowe, guys are slumping at the same time, and you can't have that, especially when you're, trying to defend your title. So I think that's exactly where they are, and that's exactly they know what the issues are, and they're trying to get out of that. So I think that's exactly what you're seeing around this clubhouse. They're not, down on themselves, but they're also, trying to get out of this kind of funk they're in.
Yeah, it's somewhat frustrating. I can imagine, especially those guys who are, chasing and things like that offensively at the plate. With that being said, Wyatt Langford seems to be doing better at the plate, and I'm wondering if it has anything to do with him being in the outfield more.
I think that could be a part of it, but I also think, it was a blessing in disguise for him to get injured, if you ask me. I think he had, 2-3 weeks to kind of, take a second step back and, look at the numbers, look at what he's doing offensively, and just the ways of him being able to kind of readjust to big league pitching, if that makes any sense. I do think, honestly, being in the outfield helps him a ton. I think, he's a young guy. Bruce Bochy talked about this a lot with a guy like Ezekiel Duran last year, how being a designated hitter is not for the weak. And it's just, and not to say any of these guys are weak being a designated hitter, but they've got to be able to keep their mind in everything all the time and not, you don't have going out in the field to kind of recalibrate yourself. So I think, Wyatt Langford, he's a pure hitter. He's, one of the best college baseball players we've ever seen, especially, this past decade. And he's been able to put things together, and I think he's played some really good outfield. He played center field for the first time yesterday. He's also he's a really good hitter. And I got to say, frankly, I think he was going to come around at some point. He wasn't going to be hitting 200 forever. And I think he knows what he's doing. He's a very smart hitter. He's a really good game planner. And I think, again, like I said, he was going to come around at some point, and I think we're seeing that right now.
We're talking to Kennedi Landry, Texas Rangers beat writer for MLB.com. And Kennedi, I want to circle back to the offense because it feels like that is clearly the big issue for the Rangers of late. But I mean, we're going into a weekend series where, as recently as a few hours ago, we had a full slate of to be announced as starting pitchers for the Texas Rangers. We got one of those. And first of all, who is that? And then also, what might that say about the possible return of some of these guys that we see battling to make their way back for the Rangers?
Yeah, Nathan Eovaldi, obviously the guy who's been the ace of this staff since Jacob deGrom went down last year, is going to start the first game of this series this weekend against the Royals. I don't know how much I can even say about Nathan Eovaldi. We all know who this guy is. He's a competitor. He's World Series hero, all of these things. I think they'll feel confident going into this weekend with Nathan Eovaldi starting on Friday. On Saturday, obviously, I think we've all seen the Jim Bowden tweet that Max Scherzer will be making his season debut this weekend. The Rangers have not confirmed nor denied that, so you can do with that what you will. I do believe that Max Scherzer will make his debut at some point within the next 5 days, whether that's this weekend or on the road trips, who knows. But I think that does spell, good fortunes for the Rangers as far as the rotation goes. And to be frank, the Rangers' rotation hasn't been the issue during this, rush stretch of 6 weeks of baseball that they've played. They went during this stretch, they went on, I think, 22 straight starts where the starting pitcher allowed 3 or fewer runs. I mean, your starting pitcher allows 3 or fewer runs, you should win more games than the Rangers did. That being said, getting a Hall of Famer like Max Scherzer back does, it's good. You can't hate that. And when you get a guy like Max Scherzer back, that allows you to put a guy like Dane Dunning or Andrew Heaney or whoever that may be into the bullpen, into those rough innings that the Rangers have before you get to David Robertson and Kirby Yates and balance things out a bit as it pertains to the bullpen. So there are a lot of issues with the Rangers. I don't think the rotation was one of them, but the issues elsewhere do kind of get fixed when you get a few arms back, like I said, Max Scherzer, Tyler Mahle, Jacob deGrom, both making good progress from their Tommy John surgeries, and will hopefully be back sooner rather than later. And then, Cody Bradford, who should hopefully throw off a mound sometime within the next 7 to 10 days. So, things are looking good on the injury front for the Rangers right now.
Speaking of the return of the injured, I think what might help that power outage is the return of Josh Young. Can you talk about when he does come back, how it impacts the batting order, the fact that they can have more pop in their bats? I don't want to put a lot of pressure on him, but in my mind, he solves quite a bit of that.
No, absolutely he does. And I think Josh Smith has been a very formidable replacement for Josh Young at third base. And I even asked Josh Smith, what is, going on with this offense? What do you think needs to change? And even he was like, I think we need Josh Young back. And I don't think Josh Young is, an end-all, be-all. He's not a magic eraser that's going to fix all of the problems with this offense, whether that's facing left-handed pitching or hitting fastballs or all of these things. But there's no doubt, Josh Young was hitting 420, I think, when he went down with the fractured wrist. Adding somebody like him back into this lineup, a guy that adds more protection for Corey Seager, he's hitting around, 3-hole, 5-hole, 6, somewhere in that area. You can't deny that that's going to add a big shift to this lineup and this offense. And I can't imagine they're going to sit Josh Smith when he gets back. So that just adds even more to, how dynamic this offense can be with somebody like Josh Young coming back. I know he's in Round Rock right now. I think they're playing right now as we speak, so I'm not really sure what he's doing, but he's hitting about 270 when I checked yesterday. I think he's progressing well. The Rangers are really happy with it. They're not going to rush him, but I think they would definitely also like to have him back sooner rather than later. So hopefully, going into the All-Star break or right out of the All-Star break, they'll have him back and be able to get something going offensively.
Kennedy, far be it from me to try and diagnose the fix for this Rangers offense.
But you're a doctor.
Because Bruce Bochy knows so much. He's probably forgotten more than I will ever know about baseball, and he is, doing his best with this. However, it's hard to not start looking at the clock that's ticking towards the trade deadline. I mean, how long does this team have to try and figure out their woes offensively before they might have to go in a way that is not necessarily as fun at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think you kind of I think with that extra wild card game we have in MLB playoffs these last few years, that affords everybody pretty much a bit of time. I think any team that's within 5 or so games of that last wild card spot, or even just looking at this division. I mean, the Mariners are up 9 games at this point. I don't know if they played today. That could have changed, but I think Chris Young and Ray Davis and everybody in this front office is going to be proactive in looking at how the team can improve, whether that's for this year in the immediate future or down the line. I think if they feel like, especially with getting some of these injured guys back, they have a chance to compete for a playoff spot, they'll go for it. I think that is almost a definite, and I think we've seen that with how Chris Young operates at the top of this front office.
Kennedi Landry, MLB.com. She covers the Texas Rangers and gave us just a little bit of her time before she goes and enjoys more R&R on her day off. Kennedi, we appreciate you greatly. You have a good one.
Awesome. Thank y'all for having me.
Enjoy the movie.